So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where the G7 goes to war with the rest of the world. Now, if you don't know what the G7 is, it's basically a political and economical alliance between Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Now, technically the EU is also kind of a member of the G7, but for this video we will be excluding them. So let's go ahead and start to make our map. Of course, like I said, we have the United States, we also have Canada in there, then there's the UK, and then France and Germany, and then Italy, the current president of the G7. And finally, interestingly enough, Japan. So here are our G7 countries minus the EU, and if you look at this, you're probably thinking, man, these guys stand no chance against the world. And you'd be right, but you'd also be kind of wrong. But I don't want to spoil anything, so let's go ahead and just get to the fighting. So like I said, they're going to be fighting against the entire world, so that's a very interesting front line for them to be fighting on. And right before we get to the conflict, which actually I'll start the conflict, but let me talk about this while it's happening. There's also a G20, so if you guys are interested in seeing the G20 versus the world, let me know in the comments. Sorry, I haven't made a video in about 2 weeks. I kind of forgot what I'm doing. I was on vacation and a lot of stuff happened there. And yeah, I'm just kind of foreign to the whole YouTube thing right now, but we're readjusting. I've also been getting slowly more involved with college and, you know, starting the process of going to college. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening right now, as I said it would back in the live video. But yeah, I did a political video, which is pretty foreign to my channel, and it did pretty good, which was it really surprised me. I didn't think that like politics and stuff would be something that interested the audience, but I forgot to check to see if there was a lot of newer viewers on that. If it was a lot of returning viewers, that would be surprising, but if there was a lot of new viewers, I think that would be unsurprising. But yeah, I'll definitely be doing more political videos in the future, especially around the election time. But anyway, time to add commentary to this mapping scenario. Also, I do have to apologize, I have to be kind of quiet. It is 2:30 in the morning. Bad life decisions, guys. But the United States will now start its invasion of Mexico, as it does every time these two go to war with each other. Almost never does Mexico ever see an invasion into the United States, and that's because it simply can't. Mexico is no match for the United States, especially considering they are right on the doorstep of the United States. Or maybe you could say that the United States is on the doorstep of Mexico. It just, I guess it depends how you interpret it. But the US is pretty much just blitzing through Mexico. I mean, the geography of Mexico is kind of troubling, as well as some of the other activities that take place within this country. Those could definitely pose as a threat to the US military. However, it is the US military we're talking about here. So honestly, you could just carpet bomb all of Mexico. That's not good. You shouldn't do that. That's very anti-Geneva Convention, but it's the United States, so who's going to say no, right? So the US is basically just like blitzing through all of the Americas. I know this isn't like super realistic, but if the US really wanted to do this and like put all their manpower on this front line, they could definitely move that quickly. Well, maybe not that quickly, but they could take out a few countries in a few days. Haiti doesn't have a government. The Dominican Republic is a country, but not strong enough. And we see that the US essentially just blitzed through all of the Americas. However, they are now facing a little bit of resistance from South America. Countries like Argentina and Brazil are fairly strong, even Colombia, and they are able to slow down the US forces in Costa Rica. Back over to Europe now, where not a lot is happening actually. Denmark does end up falling, however the Germans are unable to advance into Sweden. They then start to invade into Czechia, however a bunch of Eastern Europeans stop them. France's invasion of Spain continues onward, and they see a lot of success. That is until the Spanish and the Portuguese start to push back, and the French are pushed all the way up toward their border. Italy will start an invasion into the Balkans. This goes extremely well. I'm sure there's not a lot of hatred towards this act right now. And the UK will start an invasion of Iceland. Without Denmark, Greenland kind of doesn't really exist, so I'm just gonna color them in pink. You can make a case that they would fight back, but I honestly don't think they would. Anyway, over to Southeast Asia here. Japan is on a defensive battle. Now in real life, they do have their own National Guard, or I guess military of defense. They're also protected by the United States. So with that in mind, we can, I mean, they would likely, more than likely, lose their northern island over to Russia, but I think their main island they'd be able to hold off for a little bit. Japan isn't going to be going on the offensive here because they're simply surrounded by a bunch of strong countries. You know, you have China, you have Russia, South Korea, even North Korea to an extent is a strong country. So they're kind of limited in what they can do here, and they just kind of chill out. They're chilling. But this is about as good as it's going to get for the attacking G7 team, because of course the rest of the world combined is a lot stronger than the G7 is, which is why a G20 scenario would be a lot more interesting than a G7 scenario. So do let me know once again if you want to see that G20 scenario, because yeah, I haven't really done anything with the G countries before. I guess is G. What does G stand for? The G7 actually used to be called the G8. Russia was a member of it, but then they did stuff in Crimea in 2014 and they got booted out. So the G8 turned into the G7, but it's kind of slowly turning back into the G8 because the EU is getting more and more involved with it. If Russia was in the scenario, it would be a lot different. I think the outcome would be the same, but it would be a lot more interesting. And I was considering about putting Russia into the scenario to start, but then, in 2014 was 10 years ago at this point, so I don't think that would be too realistic. I mean, 2014 was 10 years ago. That's crazy. I was 8 years old 10 years ago, which still doesn't seem right. I think I'm getting old, guys. This is not good. Anyway, France's invasion of Iberia continues to pick back up because now the UK is helping them out. Madrid is stolen away and France starts to sweep through the southern Mediterranean coast of the country, eventually meeting the border of Portugal. Spain then surrenders and the invasion of Portugal is fairly swift. Now we come back over here to Europe. Italy will attempt to go a little bit further, now pushing towards Vienna. However, they are stopped by Austrian-Hungarian forces, and now it all starts to collapse for the G7 team. A group of Middle Eastern troops, which, the Middle East at this point, you can consider this the Middle East. That's a lot of troops. These guys are pushing up on an offensive into the Balkans. Meanwhile, there's a northern offensive that is comprising of, well, a lot of the world, mostly Eastern Europe and the former Soviet countries. These guys are pushing back in the north. Of course, you have the Scandinavian countries and they're pushing down. Africa is sending troops up over to Iberia in order to liberate Spain. South America, of course, is going to fight back against the United States. And Japan, they are in for the gangbang of their life. Let's see how it all unfolds. So like I said, that Middle Eastern squadron is moving up from the Middle East and Italy is terrified. Do they switch sides? No, that would be a boring joke, right? Instead, they decide to fight it out. Now, Italy is ranked as one of the top strongest countries in the world. I didn't know that they were that strong, like top 15 worthy. I always assumed that Italy was, average in terms of military strength, but no, they are actually up there. And that assumption comes mostly from their history of being not very together and united, other than the whole Rome thing, of course. Ever really looked at Italy? It looks so weird. It's a really weird shaped country. Just look at it. It's this entire peninsula, and then there's a whole other section up here. Sorry guys, I think I might be tired or something. Sicily is taken by the Middle Easterners, and then move up into Sardinia with the help of the Northern Africans. Rome is captured, and Italy starts to fall. And what else starts to fall is, of course, the G7, because now that front line is pushing into France. They take over Corsica. The Eastern Europeans are now pushing back against the Germans, and for the second time in German history, probably not the second time in German history, Berlin is captured by the Russian-led coalition. It might be this. Is it the second? I don't think so. It's probably happened more often. I think I'm majoring in history at college, so I'll learn a lot more in the next 4 years. I'm taking a class on European history specifically in this first semester, so that will help out in these scenarios a lot more in terms of historical context and, all the other good stuff that comes with history. I'd say that I'm fairly knowledgeable on a brief overview of world history, but not in depth and detailed in certain continents like Europe. So I think, taking history in college will help out the YouTube channel, but also help me out because history is probably my #1 thing that I'm good at. Enough rambling about me though. Let's talk about the fall of France. And we're talking about the modern fall of France, not the other 20 times France has fallen. So the Netherlands are liberated, and as well as the rest of the Benelux, including Belgium and Luxembourg. Africa starts to invade up into Spain from the south, and France's forces start to retreat from Iberia as they are told to protect the motherland. Over in Japan, we see China and other countries work together to start to invade Japan. Now, invading Japan would be very difficult, just ask the US. They had to resort to dropping 2 nuclear bombs on them. Nowadays, Japan is even more populated and a lot stronger economically, so an invasion of Japan would be gruesome, so they might want to drop a couple more bombs. However, I don't usually use nukes in these videos, so we will not be dropping any more bombs on Japan. I think they've had enough. Instead, we'll be going good old conventional warfare and millions of people dying. We all love that, right? So while Japan holds it down on their 2 fronts, we go back over to North America where nothing is happening. The Darien Gap provides a very interesting scenario here between the Americas. The Darien Gap is, I think people have said it's pretty impossible to cross over. My bad. I base a lot of my information about geography, at least, off of what you guys tell me in the comments. Like, for example, the Darien Gap. It would be very hard to traverse across, especially using military, so it would be a lot of naval attacks onto Colombia and vice versa into Panama. So I do not believe that the US Navy, the US Navy, they might go around. We're talking about the United States Navy here, not the Glaze, but I don't want any wars to break out, but I think it would be very interesting to see the modern US military in action against a full-scale war. Now, I'm not calling for war. I'm not, fear-mongering or war-mongering or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, see the whole US military in active conflict against a country like, maybe Russia would be super interesting. It wouldn't be good. I'm not like, endorsing that. I'm not saying that I want it to happen. I don't want it to happen. But hypothetically, I would like to see how the US military works. Modernly, that is. We know how it works historically. It works very well. But back over in Europe, the glazing is not happening as the French are losing Paris for the 30th or 40th time in history. That's not an exact number, but it feels like it. And slowly but surely, France falls in a very similar fate to how it did in World War II, losing its coastal areas and surrendering. Of course, with that, France no longer holds any of Iberia, and Iberia is quickly liberated in a couple of weeks. And now we have 4 countries left, 2 of which are very geographically gifted. Another one, which is damn hard to invade. Oh, and also another one that's damn hard to invade. I mean, if they really wanted to, they could militarize their population. I don't think that would go well with Japan based off of culture, but maybe they do, maybe they don't. Japan falls over to the Chinese and Koreans, ironically enough. That's probably amazing to hear for like a lot of Koreans, but maybe not because that was, 80 years ago. It doesn't necessarily excuse it, but I'm just saying it was 80 years ago. As you can see on your screen, the UK is getting invaded. They're facing the wrath of the whole world. So yeah, I mean, like, good luck. Reverse colonialism, haha, eat it. Ireland is liberated, and slowly but surely, the world starts to turn blue. I also want to talk about something else real quick. The politics video that I just did last Saturday, I did it in place of a civilization video because I've been doing so much civilization stuff, so I thought, let's just take a break from it and do something different. And we did something different and it worked, so that's cool. But also, I did that video before the debate, and I honestly didn't even know about the debate until it was happening. So that's my bad. I didn't even mention it in the video, but the debate definitely changed that map a little bit. Some people think there's a clear winner in that debate. In my opinion, I think there was, and it's not who people think it was, unless you're smart. I don't know. I guess there's a lot of different ways you can look at how that went. But the way I view it, and I think the way that most people who are, studying politics look at it, is somebody won, and that somebody who won is more likely to win the election now. I'm not going to talk about the politics in this video though, because this is not a politics video. This is a jumping video. We are witnessing the jumping of the G7. In fact, the G7 doesn't even exist anymore. It's just the alliance between the United States and Canada. I don't know. Is there an official treaty between? I mean, obviously there's an official treaty between the two, and that is NATO, and also like AUKUS. I think that's what it's called, or something like that. It's like CANSUK, but with the United States, or maybe it's just the U.S. and Australia and New Zealand. I don't know, but I think these two definitely have an official alliance together. As you can see, though, the U.S. has been pushed back to their own border, and the invasion of Alaska via Russia has begun. The Russians stick to the Alaskan coast, which is where everything in Alaska is at, and start to seep down into Canada, which is fairly unprotected at this point. They are stopped, however, by Canadian and US forces near Vancouver, and now we see an all-out naval war between the world and the US. Who wins this war in the long run? Well, the world, of course, but the US is able to hold their own until they run out of ships and manpower, and when the US does eventually run out of manpower, well, you know what happens next. They lose. Is there going to be a peace treaty? Should we do a peace? Let's do a peace treaty. Why not? All right, so breaking down this peace treaty here, ignore Europe for a second. We'll start in the Americas. So Mexico gets a little bit of land from the United States. And you might be thinking, this isn't a lot of land. And it really isn't. However, the value of this land is a lot more than you might think it is. Now, I might have missed LA. So let's just go ahead and throw in a little bit more of California. But Mexico is going to be getting all of LA, San Diego, and important parts of Arizona. So yeah, I mean, some people might be happy about this in the US. I personally don't think this would be good for the country because, economy and stuff like that. But Mexico gains a lot of population and a lot of economy, and also a lot of homelessness. Hey, but it's okay. That's probably better for them because being homeless is apparently illegal in the US now. Not literally, but figuratively. Alaska is also giving back to Russia. Canada gets out of this scot-free, lucky for them. Now we head over to the monstrosity, which is now Europe. We're looking a lot like the HRE days, a little bit more unified, but a lot more divided. That's not true. The HRE was hell on earth. It was horrible. I really want to do a video with the HRE split up, but honestly, like, what can I do? I mean, it's so many countries. If you don't know what the HRE looks like, look it up. It's horrible. We'll start with the UK. They have to release Scotland. They have to release Wales, Cornwall, and England got split into two. Is that what the borders of England look like? You know, is that what their provinces look like? Probably not. In fact, it isn't, because I just made it up. Move down to France. France got destroyed. They were forced to spit out Brittany. They lost land over to Spain, a lot of it. Honestly, it looks horrible. I might want to like divide that up like that. Sorry, Spain, but that looks a lot better. So we have 3 new French countries right here. We have Belgium, which interestingly enough got split into Flanders and whatever the other half is called. I think that's probably best for the country. We have the Dutch gaining land. We have the new German province right here. Capital is probably Frankfurt. We have the rest of Germany up here. Switzerland got land from Italy. Italy didn't lose too much. However, they lost this little peninsula over to Albania. I thought that would be kind of funny. Sicily gains independence, as well as Corsica and Sardinia. We have Austria and Czechia becoming unrecognizable. Slovenia becomes a slightly more long. Poland reverses over on Germany. Denmark gets their old land back and then some. And now we head over to Japan. Japan really didn't change too much. At least that's what it looks like. This island's independent. This island's independent. This part of the island is independent. We have southern Japan, we have northern Japan, and then we have this going over to Russia. Now, could those divisions be a little bit more different? Sure, you know, maybe this island goes over to China, maybe this goes to South Korea, which is unlikely but possible, and then we have the rest of Japan right here. Really, you can use your imagination for how exactly this peace treaty worked. But yeah, that is going to do it for today's video. It's my first video back, so do excuse it if it's lackluster in quality. However, like I said, it's my first video back. I was just on vacation for about 5 days. I pre-recorded all my videos last Monday and had them all posted last Monday. So at this point, it's been a week since I've recorded, which, you know, usually I record twice a week. But it's been a while. No, I didn't record this on Monday. I recorded all those videos on Friday last week. So it's almost been 2 weeks, about a week and a half since I recorded, which is a very long time. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. The break was very refreshing, not having to worry about YouTube. In fact, I never even checked my YouTube channel at all until I just got back. Well, I got back, today's what, Tuesday now technically, because it's 3 in the morning. So I got back on last Friday. And I haven't checked my YouTube channel until just before I recorded this video. So, you know, I took kind of a mental break from YouTube for about 2 weeks, which is very nice. You know, it's good to get away from, I guess, for some people, your job, or in this case, my hobby / you know, whatever you want to call this for me. Anyway, I'll stop yapping now. I keep finding weird things happening. I think I'm tired. I should probably go to bed. Yeah, I'm going to catch you guys in the next video, which will be Civilizations. So yeah, see you then. And of course, thank you to all the super fans. This includes Mr. Bonk7, Patrick Clauser, Switzerland Lowell Productions, German Edits, Georgie Badev, Kylie Speaks Plays, HammerToad45, Connor the Gamer, Poland Country Ball, Yakko, Nevada Garbage Trucks, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.